Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Janet Genser. I'm on the Knowledge and Impact team at Nonprofit Finance Fund, and I'm really excited to be introducing you to this incredible lineup of speakers that we have for you today. But before we dive into that, a few quick housekeeping notes. As you all probably know, the bathrooms are right outside the door and a little bit down the hall. There will also be time for Q&A later on in the program. So when we get to that point, you'll use the microphones that are right on your table. You'll just hit that button at the base of the mic before you speak. But if you don't get a chance to ask your question, not to worry. There will be a networking lunch following the event, which we hope you all will stay for. So you'll get a chance to network and ask your questions then. And as I introduce the speakers, I won't be reading the full bios of each speaker. So for those, please refer to your program. And then lastly, if you do any tweeting or Instagramming or Facebooking of the event today, please do use the Invest in Results hashtag. That way we can find it later. And that's all the housekeeping notes. And so I also just want to make another few thank yous. So we've been working with the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco since 2015 on this campaign. We started by producing the book that you all have on your tables that David talked about. We made a website. We have pulled together this series of events we've had across the country. They've been in New York, San Francisco, DC, Dallas, Boston, LA, and now Philly. And then for this event, we've had the honor to work with some great local leaders, Sydney Hargrove and Shira Hodges at the Philanthropy Network, and Cheryl Cullman at the Wharton Social Impact Initiative. And then, of course, the Philadelphia Fed, who are not only our hosts today, but have been incredible about putting this together, doing all the event planning and admin work today, which is no small feat. So thank you all so much. And so without further ado, we'll move on with the program. I'd like to introduce Christine Alvarez, who is Director of Advisory Services at Nonprofit Finance Fund, and is based here in our Philadelphia office, so many of you likely know her. But quickly before she comes up, we want to play a short video that we created at the start of this campaign to talk about why we started this campaign, as well as the potential that we see in outcomes orientation having in the communities that we serve.
Nonprofits, governments, funders, and financiers of social services are often driven by a common goal: to help people and strengthen communities. Yet, is the current funding system hindering progress towards that goal? Take, for example, Jack. Jack has no job or permanent place to live, largely because of his struggles with severe clinical depression. So most days, Jack's best hope is a shelter called the Output Center. The Output Center takes him in, but they have no funding to get him treatment. In fact, he's been staying with them on and off for the past 3 years and not getting any better. The Output Center's funding is based solely on providing a safe and clean nightly shelter. While they're very good at what they do, this funding model means they can't focus their resources on treating the underlying causes of homelessness, like Jack's illness. Like so many organizations, they are funded based on outputs. Outputs are the measure of an organization's activities. For the center, that means the number of clients housed each night. This outputs-based funding model comes with conditions that make it hard for the shelter to focus on addressing underlying issues like clinical depression. Because of this model, Jack doesn't receive the treatment that would help him in the longer term, and so the cycle of homelessness continues. Now, let's look at a different approach. One day, Jack goes to a different shelter called the Outcomes Center. Here, a staffer points him to Maya, a counselor who can begin treating Jack's illness. The Outcomes Center has funding to invest in professionals, such as Maya, that help Jack and others like him overcome the very problem that brought him to the shelter in the first place. The center's belief is that with treatment of this sort, Jack will get and keep permanent housing. The difference here is a focus on outcomes rather than outputs. Outcomes are the tangible results that a shelter achieves and can measure, such as the number of clients they transition into permanent housing, who stay there for at least a year. The Outcomes Center's outcomes-based funding allows them to address Jack's illness and put him on a sustainable path to recovery. This concept changes the way we think about funding and success. It reorients the funder-grantee relationship around long-term results. Nonprofits get the space to innovate to tackle social problems. And most importantly, Jack has the support he needs to live a healthier life. To solve big problems, we need long-term solutions. An outcomes approach lets schools focus not just on how many students are in their classrooms, but on getting their students to graduate. It lets hospitals focus not just on how many patients they see and how often, but on whether or not those patients get healthy. We all want to get the most out of social sector spending, so it's up to all of us to deliver better outcomes for Jack and all communities by rewarding providers for the long-term value they create. Visit investinresults.org to join the conversation. Thank you.